Hi, I'm Jade Keogh.
And hello from me too, I'm Grace Seeley.
We both play for the Millwall Lionesses and are sponsored by the No One Likes Us talking team.
Why not sponsor one of our teammates just like they do?
To find out how, just email
kwebster@millwallcommunity.org.uk.
I'll say that again.
kwebster@millwallcommunity.org.uk.
In your email, say who you want to sponsor and we'll get back to you with the sponsorship details and what to do next.
This is all you have to do and it will help us to get back to where we belong. Thank you, guys.
Now, enjoy our Millwall fan show from No One Likes Us talking team.
Come on, Mir.
Hi, Bethany Warren here, and you've joined us for the weekly Our Millwall fan show with the Millwall No One Likes Us talking team, which is broadcast every Friday evening. Enjoy!
I'm your host, Gary Staff, and I have the No One Likes Us talking team of Patrica Maslin, George Lampey, and Godwin.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
Evening, Pat.
Good evening.
Evening, George.
Good evening.
Evening, Stan.
Good evening.
I say this with a heavy heart. Millwall 3, Blackburn 4. Oh, well, we didn't make it. I'll put my thoughts out first, and then you guys can follow up. I thought we did the job. We had the job done. In the first half, we had the job done. I said to my colleagues next to me, who would be in the stand, what the problem we've got now is we're 3-1 up. Do we sit back? Do we go for it and I'd make it 4, 5, 6? And to be honest, I actually don't know what we did. I think the players ran out of path. There was points when we were still at 3-3 and they looked absolutely knackered, for want of a better word. But in a weird way, it might be a blessing in disguise. We might have gone to Middlesbrough and got absolutely hammered. I don't know. We might have got to the final. We might have won it. We never know. But look, we're in the Championship for another season. Gary Rowett's given us another a decent season. We were there. We had it in our hands. We threw it away. I'll admit that we threw it away. But we move on and we can discuss what we think's there in our hands for next season and we'll go from there. But I'm gutted, but we move on. Pat, what are your thoughts?
Oh, it didn't matter what happened elsewhere. It was in our own hands, wasn't it?
It was.
We went into the game 2 points ahead of everyone. Only got ourselves to blame. If you look back at Blackburn's scoring record, they've only ever got 1 or 2 goals, yet they get 4 against us. The best opportunity in 21 years to get promotion. I mean, that loss cost us. I mean, just one season in the First Division, if we'd come down and we parachute payments, £400 million. That's not a typo or anything. That is the actual amount of money we could have made. I mean, so it is a big deal. Everyone's brushing it aside. It's it is a big deal. I mean, we finished 8th in the league 5 years ago. So where's progression? There's no progression in 5 years. You're saying, oh, wonderful season, but we were a wonderful season 5 years ago, but we've not progressed from that point, have we? We can't get beat by the likes of Huddersfield, Hull, Birmingham, and expect to get playoffs and promotions. We lost this weeks ago. We didn't just lose it Saturday.
Oh, great.
I'm gutted. I'm still gutted. And I'm glad the season's over because I've got football fatigue. I don't want anything to do with it for the next 2 months. And that's how long it'll take to get over it.
George?
Well, and I think Pat makes a very good point about when we lost this. It wasn't obviously on Monday. It was, all them weeks of us trying to muck it up, I think, and all them other teams doing no better than us and allowing us to stay in there, which was giving us a false impression, really, wasn't it? But on the very last day, there we are. We're 3-1 up. We couldn't have asked for more, could we? We got a full house. We're 3-1 up at half-time. The one thing I thought is that when they came out for the second half, You don't want to give them a quick goal. And what did we do? They got a quick goal. And from then on, I think we were just deflated.
But
All right,
George, I want to say something about that quick goal.
Yeah.
We went 2-0 up, and the goal got disallowed. Exactly the same thing happened on their goal, and the linesman didn't spot their player who was offside. If you look back, you pause that screen, he is a good yard offside, probably more than what Bradshaw was offside. Sometimes it stinks, but just to say,
well,
and
yeah, but
I know people are moaning about Long playing it around, but if you look at the mistake that pair made for their free kick, is even worse.
Yeah.
But that's just just one of those.
You know, as I say, I think we had such chances. How we would have got on in the playoffs, I don't know, but it's been. I think it was a great shame, and we're all obviously very deflated about it. But you know, a 3-1. I just thought we were there. We had made it, and then we just, whatever happens to a team like that, they just must lose confidence, and it goes through the entire team. So, yeah, it was a pretty sad day all round, wasn't it? I mean, not one that I've seen a million times before, but it don't make it any easier.
One thing I will say though, George, before I go to Stan, I was slightly annoyed by the amount of people. I know everyone had their feelings. I know everyone was hurting at that moment, but the amount of people that walked out with 4-3, and that team had got us there. I know it's disappointing. I know it's hard, and I include my dad in this. And me and my son sat there. My son was bawling his eyes out because he was upset. He didn't know what was going on because he's 6, and all the emotion of the people around him were finding it hard. But I find, so for that many people to walk away and not give those players a clap to at least have got us there to that last game of the season, I find that disgusting, and I always will.
You stayed right to the end, did you, to see them all get clapped round the pitch?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you was obviously then. I was there and all, but you would have obviously noticed that there weren't many people. Were there?
They weren't, and it pissed me off.
18,000 crowd. But you do have to allow people to be disappointed and want to go. And
of course. But it's the last game of the season, George. Suck it up. Say thank you. Suck it up and say thank you. Those players probably didn't want to do that lap of honour.
Absolutely not. I would have thought that was the last thing on their mind, doing a lap of honour in any. Yes, but yeah. I mean, enough people stayed to make it worthwhile. But
exactly.
I do understand the people who were.
Oh, of course. But George, it's a long season, and it just shows everyone. Oh, I want tickets. I want to be there. I want to be involved. But I would say there was probably 2,000 left in that ground. Not even that. Yeah, 1,500, 2,000 people left in that audience, and they were the core supporters who felt genuine that they wanted to say thank you. I was one of them, and I always do that in the last game of the season to say thank you for what I've seen for the last 46 games.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, Stan, do you agree?
Well, about what? I mean, because I have to say, you see, I'm normally one that would normally stay behind, but after that game on the other day, I mean, after about 5 minutes, I mean, I was away. I was just, I was just gutted. And what guts me, right, is the fact that, I mean, I'm sitting there in the first half, right? I mean, I couldn't believe what I was watching because, you know, the second and the third goal that we scored were defensive mistakes by Blackburn, right?
Yep.
And normally when we've got them sort of mistakes to us in the past, right, we normally screw it up, right? But we actually put them away perfectly. And the players, in actual fact, the players who scored the goals, right, I mean, I thought they played really well, right? So we go in at full time, not full time, we go in at half time and you're 3-1 up. Now, this is what I don't get, because I've read the papers today and I've heard stories about, well, they lost their nerve and this and that and whatever. Well, you know, it concerns me. I mean, it really does, because, you know, you haven't got to be Sherlock Holmes to work out that when you're sitting in that dressing room at half time, right, you know Blackburn are not going to get any worse, right? They can't play any worse in the second half than they did in the first half. So you know they're going to come at you. So you've then got to be, your resolve's got to be stiff. You know, you can either sit 10 men behind the ball, right? And if we'd have done that, I wouldn't have cared, right? Because at this stage of the season, the result's more interesting in the performance. And I'm going to contradict myself in a minute. But what happens is we come out, instead of showing a bit of backbone, as soon as we get the ball, we're lumping it forward. And because you keep lumping it forward, and eventually you're going to pay the price. And we paid the price. Now, how long have we got to go on suffering from self-inflicted wounds? I mean, I just
That's the
sit
point I
there.
was making, Stan. I don't think they knew what to do in that second half. They come out. Do they attack? Do they sit back? They didn't do either, did they? Really?
Well, that's what we got. Yeah, but you see, that's why we got a manager and an assistant manager. They should be laying down the law.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm not criticizing, but what I'm getting at is we gave it away, right? And you know, you can't keep, if you're serious. I mean, I know people have off days and all the rest of it. We've all been there, no matter what you do. But on that, I just sat there and I couldn't. When they got the second goal, I thought to myself, this is it here. And because then the blind Diaz was getting the ball, he was standing off him. You can't, you know, I know I bang on about this, but you just can't keep lumping the ball forward. That goalkeeper Long, all he does is gets the ball and he lumps it forward. And you're playing. You got what's his name, Fleming, the best technical player we've got in our team. And he's standing on the halfway line at times, watching the ball sail over his head. And you think, what's all that about? Right now, you know, I mean, I was looking up for some stats today from, you know, a little while ago. When we played Luton, 6 weeks ago at Luton, in the first 10 minutes, he lumped that ball in the first half, he lumped that ball forward 17 times. And in that game, we never, and although we drew 2-2 and we were 2-0 up, right, but we could have lost it 4-2 at the end of the day, it's the 73rd minute before we get our first corner. Now, what does that tell you? 73 minutes before we get a corner. It's all wrong. And you can't play that sort of football against them sort of teams because they will punish you.
Agreed.
But we don't learn the lesson. But getting back to that one, but then when we were sitting there, I mean, I thought in the first half, the play was just from, so all they've got to do now is just sit back, be composed, right? And if they'd put 10 men behind the ball and whatever, fine. But I just don't know what happened to them, right? And it crumbled. Now, people were going where I was sitting, and because once they started getting frustrated, and they was, you know, the first person who done anything wrong, right? I mean, I know we're going to get onto it later, but Tyler Burey, for example, when they was bringing him on, some bloke, 20 yards from where I'm sitting, right, and I'm in the cold blow lane up, he ain't even got on the pitch at that point, right? And this bloke's slagging him off. And he ain't even got on the pitch. So he clearly don't like him. Clearly don't like the bloke.
We'll go into that in a minute.
Going absolutely balmy, and he ain't even kicked the ball at that point.
Yeah, I think there's a bit too more to the Burey thing that meets the eye.
Like that.
Yeah. Don't you think we'll give some credit to their manager? Changing that at half time.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing his subs on. He annihilated us the second half. And what did we do? We waited till they drew level. And then 10 minutes later, we changed ourselves. Why, after that first goal, when it was 3-2, why didn't we change it up then? As you said, Stan, we could see that third goal coming.
Yeah, we could see the fourth goal coming.
Yeah, so why wasn't it? Why did we wait? And then we take off our top goal scorer and a guy who's just got 2 who's absolutely flying that game.
Yeah, and Saville, who was running the midfield at that point in the game as well. Yeah.
Why?
Don't know.
I don't see. We needed to win. It don't matter if we had lost 23. It don't matter. We just needed to score goals. We needed to put forwards on. We needed to score. and yet he's taking them off.
I know.
I can't understand it.
Right, we'll get onto that in a minute. Right. I'm going to take a break there and be back for our first question for the evening. But let's not now listen to Debbie Julian's talking about our sponsors, G&M Motors.
Our Millwall Fan Show is sponsored by family business G&M Motors of Gravesend and Meopham in Kent. They are Millwall fans too. They've been Honda dealers for over 50 years. At G&M Motors Gravesend, you can purchase a new Honda. At both Gravesend and Meopham, they have a combined range of over 150 quality used cars and ex-demonstrators to suit all budgets and lifestyles. They also offer a comprehensive range of repair and maintenance services to ensure your vehicle stays reliable, safe, and retains a higher value with trust. G&M Motors, Gravesend and Meopham are dear friends of the Julians family. From Lenny to Debbie, and also our Millwall Fan Show.
I'm your host, Gary Staff, and with me I have the No One Likes a Talking team of Patrica Maslin, George Lampey and Stan Godwin. Many thanks to our sponsors this season, G&M Motors of Gravesend and Meopham. It's been a pleasure to have worked with you. Our first question of the night. I think I know the answer to this already from the first guest who I'm bringing on. Will Gary Rowett stay with the Lions? Pat? Or is that more of a... Yeah, it's a double-ended question.
Two different questions, isn't it? Whether I think he should stay or whether he will. He'll stay because Millwall aren't a club to sack managers, let's be honest. No. How many managers have we actually sacked in our history? We just don't do it.
Probably 5 in the last 20 years. No, 5 in the last 6-7 years.
Well, no, I mean, even Holloway, he sat on his bum, didn't he, till he got his money. But we're not that type of club.
On that, Pat, as well, you always know that Millwall, if you look longest tenure of manager, it'll always be Millwall with a 4 or 5 years, won't it?
Well, yeah. Unless someone comes in for Rowett, I can't see him going anywhere. I mean, he's moved before when he's offered more money, so I don't think there's any loyalty to the club there.
Do you want him to stay?
Sorry?
Do you want
him to stay? No, I want him to walk.
Yeah.
I've seen no progression. I know we're a settled championship club, blah, 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 blah. You look on the back of that programme, they're all Harris's players still, basically. He's done 2 really good buys. I'll give him that. I like Honeyman. I like Fleming. You can't... But,
Styles?
Styles isn't ours, is he? They're loanees. We've not bought them.
But I thought Styles is... We've got a purchase agreement on.
Styles, don't we?
Yeah. He's basically ours if you want him.
Yeah.
Are you sure on that?
Yeah, 100%. And Shackleton, both the same. I wish it was on Cresswell though. But that's what
well, I tell you what. Sorry, but I happen to think personally. I think myself, if Cresswell gets the chance to stay, I think he will do.
Me too.
I think he will.
Well, I think he wants to, but I don't think he's going to. Leeds won't let him go.
No, if they get relegated.
Well, I don't know. I've been on a couple of their websites. It doesn't sound like they want him going anywhere.
Yeah, well.
But anyway,
but so and the other Shackleton, we got the chance of him, haven't we? Because he's in a similar position with his move to Millwall that the other guy that Pat just mentioned said.
Yeah.
Let's
try and keep it on about. Yeah, we'll keep it on about Rowett for the moment because we're going to go on to signings and stuff in a minute. But Stan, do you think Rowett's a stay? Or will stay?
Yeah, I mean, I do because, my understanding of it is, right, and this is just the stories that you hear, that for a long time, JB was after getting Gary Rowett in as the manager, right, when he had the opportunity and whatever. And I think he tried once before, but he couldn't because Rowett was somewhere else and whatever. So when he had the chance to get him, he got him. And I think that, we've had 4 managers since about 2014. If you take Charlton down that 4 miles down the road, they've had something like about 15.
Or Watford just across the water.
Than what they was then. So, and I've always argued, if you want to progress as a club, you must have to stand any chance of that. You must have stability. You can't keep sacking managers every 5 minutes. It's a nonsense. So yeah, and to be fair, I mean, I'm looking at his record since he's been here. You know, we finished 8th at the first season, and that was he coming in October. Then we finished 11th the following season. Then we finished 9th, 21-22, and we just finished 8th. I mean, under Rowett, right? People keep saying about, oh, well, he's this and that. But all the managers we've had when we was in the Championship, apart from McGee, right, he's consistently got us up there. So no, I'm more than happy for him to stay. Although I did read, and I did put it out the other day. You're going to get a lot of this, right? You know, apparently, some bloke in some Palace geezer reckons that because the Palace are now going to be looking for a new manager, and they're keen on Rowett.
Now, I think that was a fake account. No, I think that was a fake account. If you looked at it,
Pat. I mean, all I'm saying is when the end of the season comes, like it does now, you get all these stories, didn't you, about this bloke's going here and somebody's fancies this other.
Yeah, so you can't be sure.
You get all that. I'm just saying, and I just saw that, and I thought, well, that'd be interesting to see what happens. But then the question is, right, if Rowett does leave, right, and goes wherever he goes, then the question then is, who is it we want? And, you know, and that is the issue. So we're all saying, get rid of this bloke, fine.
You don't keep someone on just because you haven't got anyone else.
Eh?
You don't keep someone just because there's no one else.
No, I'm not saying you do that. I'm not saying that, Pat. What I'm saying is, I mean, like today, managers have a shelf life, don't they? They do, right? I mean, for all we know, Rowett might be talking to JB now, thinking, oh, I've had enough. We don't know that. And I'm not saying you keep him because of that. What I'm saying is, for somebody to turn around and say, well, get rid of him, there's got to be somebody else out there. Well, okay, that's fine, but that's not the way to run a football club. If you're serious about getting promotion, you've got to have a proper plan. You know.
Yeah, but we've just said on Stan that we don't sack managers very much, do we? As a club, you know, we're pretty good in that respect. I mean, whether this guy stays or goes, I don't know. But the one thing, and I mean, I know Pat's never been an advocate of his actual footballing team playing football, but that's a different story. But I think you can't argue with this fella's record. You know, I wanted to know. So you actually told me something, you know, 8th, 11th, 9th and 8th. Yeah. And I think under Rowett, the one thing we can actually say, and all right, with John Berylson's backing, of course, is that we have become very much an established championship club.
That's right, absolutely, yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I do fall into Pat's camp a bit about playing one forward up front, but I can't argue with Gary Rowett's success. You know, he proved me wrong in that. I don't think it leads.
You've got to look at the facts, though. I mean, in the last 4 years, is there a memorable game that you'll never forget? And no, nothing. Have we had a decent cup run at all in 4 years? Nothing. He had nothing on his CV when he came. He's still got nothing on his CV now. Yeah, he's not achieved anything apart from now he's got an ageing Harris squad. He's got to start changing them. He's got to start buying. Because these players are getting older.
Yeah, but Pat, you talk about a cup run, right? And I don't have a problem with what you're saying because I'm not one of these people, right? You see, if you take this season and you take the Sheffield United manager, right? And I've said this and I've had this argument. I get sick to death of hearing all this nonsense when people turn around and say, well, the cup is the distraction. I don't accept that. I've never accepted that because before we had the Premier League, the FA Cup was never described as a distraction. It's only a distraction now because of money. That's what it's the distraction for. But look at Sheffield United. The manager there, his key job, right, whoever it happens to be in any football club, is to win football matches. That's his number one objective. Sheffield United, they've then got now promoted right into the Premier League, and good luck to them. They fully deserved it, and they also got to the semi-final of the FA Cup played against Manchester City, I think, and they got knocked out. And by the way, in the process, made a lot of money, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Now, take your mate Harris, right? And I've never forgotten this, and I've never forgiven him for it, right? We played Spurs a few years ago in the Cup, and I'm not saying that's his fault. We go over to White Hart Lane and we get beat 6-0 and whatever, and that's fine, right? 2 seasons later or season later, we're going through the FA Cup and we're playing Rochdale, who are now not in the Football League, and we're playing them at home. We're on the 6th round of the FA Cup, or the 5th round of the FA Cup, right? And the next game that we got to do is we're going to be playing Spurs. Either us or Rochdale are going to be playing Spurs at home, right? And what does he do against Rochdale? He farts about with the team. We end up drawing, and we go up there and get beat. And he lost us, and that's what I'm saying. So for me, any manager, I'll always argue that the FA Cups, League Cup, football, and obviously the league, you go out to win football matches. And I do not accept the argument it's a distraction. It's not a distraction. And
They're important, but we've not had one, have we?
No, well,
I remember the first year Rowett was in charge. We had Sheffield United when they were a Premiership side down the Den. It was 1-1 at half time. We was all over them. And what did he do? He changed the side second half, and like Saturday, we just capitulated. Oh yeah, we don't want to be in the cup. It's an excuse.
If they, all I'm saying is, let me just say, I'm not convinced that if he's doing, if what you're saying, if he got on the telly, if he got on the radio and said, well, actually, Pat's right, I did do that, right? Then that's not acceptable to me, because to me, I want to win football matches, and I want to win. I want the FA Cup.
They what make going football important, enjoyable. That year we beat Leicester and Watford and all them first division clubs. I mean, it's
right,
they're memorable.
I agree with you. But what I'm getting at is, I mean, this is what I couldn't work out with Harris, though, Pat, because he was the manager all through all them, right? We could have got to the semi-final again, but a cock up with a goalkeeper, fair enough, right? But we could have done it the next season, and he screwed it. Rochdale.
One game out of a 5-year, a 5-year in charge there. It's a bit petty.
Well, no, but I want to win football matches. I mean, what I'm saying is egging bottom. He's gone to Sheffield United, and his job is to win football matches, and he's done it. But he don't. So they don't mess about. He plays the proper teams.
Right. We'll take a break there and listen to some very, very kind words from Debbie.
Hi, Debbie here. I would like to say thank you from me, the No One Likes Us Talking team, the fans, ex-players and players, to Chris Bethel, Pat and all those who have worked endlessly to keep the wonderful tradition of the Millwall programme alive, especially for the very touching recent programme, Farewell to the Old Den, 30-year anniversary. Thank you. You are what makes the Millwall family special.
Thanks, Debbie, and I concur with everything she just said. And
nice. I didn't know that was coming.
No, you didn't. You kept a little surprise for you, Pat.
That's cheered you up, Pat, in it now. You ain't got the answer much.
You're not going to do it next year.
She's never happy, is she? Never happy.
I'm your host, Gary Staff, and I have with me the No One Likes a Talking team of Patricia Maslin, that lady who just heard talking just then, George Lampey, and Stan Godwin. Right. We know Zian Fleming was our player of the season, followed by Brad Shaw and George Saville, I think. Pat, who was your standout player of the season?
Give George a go. I'll keep going first. George ain't said much.
All right, go on then, George. You go first. You can talk.
Right, well, I'm quite happy. Thank you for that, Pat. It's very nice. It's the only nice thing you've done all season, isn't it?
Apart from letting her in your box, Pat.
Yeah. Zian Fleming, I understand why everybody would have voted for him, but I think the guy who I would vote for all the time, every season for us, is Murray Wallace. I don't think there's an harder working man. I think he just gives more percentage-wise than anybody. And I think these last, half a dozen games or so he's been out, I think we really have missed him, actually. I know he's not the star of the show or anything like that, but I think he's one of the heartbeats of our club.
Talking of player of the season, I was just flicking through Twitter, seeing what's on in the news about Millwall that I could bring in for the show. And Alex Mitchell has won player of the season or young player of the season for St Johnstone this season. So if he's coming back next season.
Can I just ask what the guys would think about Murray Wallace?
Yeah, sure. I love him. I think he's an absolute stalwart. Not always my player of the season because I don't think he's had the best season this season, but I like him.
I think he's had a hard time of late. I like him. I mean, he won Player of the Year last year. I think like a few of the players, they're going for a bad spell at the moment. I mean, him and McNamara. I mean, that's not a reason for getting rid of a player because I think it is just a bad spell, and I think they'll both come back fighting. I think I like Wallace.
Yeah, I mean, I like Murray Wallace. This season, the guy that I voted for, which wasn't Fleming, although it was Tom Bradshaw, because I think this particular season, I think he's been outstanding. And for once, in all the time he's been there, he's actually had some decent service, right? Because normally, to be fair to him, he's normally jumping up in the air trying to get the ball under control, and he's only about the same size as Neil Harris in height-wise. But so he was the guy that I voted for. But in turn, with the point that George is making in relationship to Murray Wallace, well, I've got no problem with that at all. I mean, he as you say, he's a good player.
Well, I think in the same breath, Stan, you're talking about Bradshaw. I think, I'm talking about Wallace and the way he works. Well, I don't think anybody has worked harder than Bradshaw under the system that Rowett plays. I mean, I think he has done the work for two men, and very much deserved.
In most cases, when he gets the ball put through to him, it's normally in the air.
Someone posted on Twitter the other day about Bradshaw. I can't find it now, but it listed all the things that like Wales call up this season: second player of the season, young person's player of the season, top scorer. The list went on. He could be proud of his season, Bradshaw. Absolutely proud of it.
No, that's right. I've always, because he does. To be fair, even when he comes on, even when he's been on 10, 15 minutes, which has not been his fault, but when he's coming as a sub, he always puts in the effort. I mean, he never walks around with the ump, and there must be times when he must get frustrated, but he does work hard,
and I think and as and I have to say that under our system, he's been asked to do more than his share, I think, which he's shouldered magnificently. Yeah. What about Pat Mason?
Yeah.
I mean,
I've got no problem with Zian winning it. I think he's come into English football his first year. He's done brilliantly. He got Player of the Month, didn't he, in October? He can score with both feet. He's good at heading. I think he's a really all-round good player. So, it didn't surprise me, and well done to him. But
he's a technically brilliant player.
As you say with Murray Wallace, if you look at the bigger picture, you got Cooper achieved 300 appearances last Monday. That is some player for the club.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't hear it very often, do you?
No. That man deserves to get a Player of the Year. If not this year, he deserves it next year, if he's still here. I mean...
Well, Rangers knocking on the door again, aren't they?
He's the centre of the team.
On the door?
Rangers
his contract runs out, doesn't it, this summer?
Yeah.
Got a lot of tidying up to do, haven't we, in this summer?
Yeah,
well, we have.
Why have we not signed this man then? Because when it comes to centre halves, even in the Championship, I don't see many centre halves obviously bigger and maybe better than Cooper. I mean, he's good.
Scared of him. Players are scared of him.
But you want to be careful here, George, because you don't forget, presumably Cooper's got an agent, hasn't he? And the agents will tell him what to do and when to do it and whatever. right? But,
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to say. I mean, you see, this is what frustrates me, right? Is that, and you sort of said it. Well, why haven't we done that? Well, it's not
Well,
as
yeah,
simple
but
as
what I
that.
mean is this. I mean, with Wallace, I'm talking about Jed. We knew exactly what his intentions were. Well, if we've allowed Cooper to go all the way to the end of his contract, is it running out now, sort of thing?
Well, I think you had to see whether we went up or not. I mean, obviously, if we went up or not, he could negotiate a lot more.
Oh, right.
I mean, I don't believe. I mean, you. All I'm saying is that there's no way, in my opinion, that the club, right, are going to sit back, right, and in Cooper's thing, and sit back and think, well, hang on, we got this promotion run, we're hopefully that'll all go and whatever. I mean, they might have attempted to do that. I mean, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But what I'm saying is, right, for all we know, they could have approached him or his agent. I mean, I'm assuming he's got an agent, right? And and I watched the programme about agents and all the rest of it on BT Sport. And these players do what the agents tell them. That's what happens. If he's got about 4 or 5 clubs, they're not going to broadcast it to Millwall, right? So this is what gets me. People just assume, the starting point is it was like it was with Wallace last season. We all know that Wallace. We all knew that Wallace wanted to leave. He clearly took the view he wanted to get. If he could have got into the Premier League when he left us straight away, then he would have done that. But what I'm saying is, if he's made up his mind, and there was people saying, "Well, sell this bloke and then the wages we saved on that, just throw money at Wallace and he'll change his mind." As I said the other day, take, for example, the guy at West Ham, Declan Rice. He said, and I'm just using it as an example, he has said that when he wants to leave West Ham and play in the Champions League. Right? That's what he said. And it don't matter how much money you give him. If they're not in the Champions League, he's leaving. Now, how do we know Cooper? I mean, not that we're going to be playing in the Champions League, but all I'm saying is that Cooper will, wait. I mean, for all we know, they could have just already agreed something and just kept it out of the way because they was going on doing what they were doing. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Well, on that note, we'll move on to the Tyler Burey incident at the end of the game. He did a lot of it in front of me and my son, who's 6, nearly 7 years of age. And what he did shows no respect for our club. I'm just putting that out there. He should never stick his tongue out, give people the finger, give it back to the crowd. In my opinion, you suck it up. You're paid the wages of the club. I didn't hear any racial abuse thrown at him. It was more about the fact that he just made a good run down the right-hand side, almost scored. Admittedly, if the ball bounces at 2 inches to the left, I think Bennett knocks it home. But we weren't lucky at that point. Everything was going against us. And then he just walks back. You can see him when they score their 4th goal. It's straight after it. He's literally not even out of the edge of the 18-yard box, and he's walking back. And that's when people started shouting at him. Personally, I want him to move on. He shouldn't do that. You're a role model. You're a role model to kids, and that is not how you behave on a football pitch, in my opinion. George, Stan, what did you think about that? Did you see any of it?
Well, I mean, I didn't actually see. I mean, I knew that something had happened. I didn't actually see it. Like, I didn't have a ringside seat, if you know what I mean, to see what actually started it. But then there was a lot of noise, and I looked over, and I could then clear it, and I could see him, sticking his finger in it. I know somebody presumably had said something to him, right? But I did, but I didn't know. Now, you see, the problem is, right? I mean, you see, I've heard some of these people in the past, right? And they turn around and they say, all right, you were there, Gary, so you know. I'm just saying what I thought. Right? But you get some people, they get on it, they get the ump, and they start standing and they start abusing players, right? And if a player he complains about it, I mean, I've heard people say, well, you've got to be man enough to take it. That's what happens. You've got to take it. Well, my experience is normally the people that start dishing it out, when they're on the receiving end of it, don't like it. But they don't mind dishing it out.
Well, that's
right?
true, Stan. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, and as I say, and he might. I've only spoken to him when I was with Pat, when we was at the dinner when we done the sponsorship with the shirts and all that recently. He was at our table. Now, he was all right with me, but all I'm saying is, but what we don't. As I say, this bloke where I'm sitting on the cold bloke. He hadn't even got on. He hadn't even got on the pitch, and this bloke's going spare. You got people. I've been reading on some of the Facebook sites in recent past. They make the comparison, right? In that they say, well, he ain't no Teddy Sheringham. Well, to be fair, the Burey's not claiming to be, right? But then see some of these people suffer with short memories. Because I had to point out to one bloke, I said, well, when Sheringham was first at Millwall, George Graham wanted him out. It means he was a show pony. He didn't rate him. As it happens, we know what happened. But, people they just dig him out, don't they? And, but no, that's, but it could well be that the bloke said something and he ain't going to put up with it and he's going to tell him. Well, if you're going to dish it out, you've got to be prepared to take it. And I don't know what was said or what weren't said. I'm not blaming anyone, but I'm just saying.
Pat, George, did you see what happened?
Didn't see or hear anything. I'm West Upper. Didn't even know anything went on till I read on social media. So I can't even talk about it.
Fair enough. George?
Well, yeah. It sort of happened just right in front of me, but I didn't actually see what the boy did, his reply. But I could, once he made his reaction, which I didn't see, but once whatever that reaction was, and as you said, Gal, he obviously did something because the guys all along us just all went mad, and I thought, well, I wondered if this boy could ever play for us again. I thought this is terrible. You don't want to bring this on yourself. But I am a bit of a believer, and I'm going back to one of Pat's favourites here, that if ever Steve Morrison got any stick, he was quick to give it back to the supporters. And I am a bit of a believer that if you're going to give it out, then don't moan if you get it back.
But George, he shouldn't. Yeah, he could do it verbally. I can take that. And Morrison did it in a different kind of way. He did it in a I don't give a way.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And you don't stick your fingers up at kids.
No. I'm not condoning that at all. The one thing that I think Millwall fans look at when it comes to Tyler Burey is that he looks like he's lazy when he's not on the ball. And I think that's why they get on his back. Because when he's on the ball, we all know what a nice little footballer he is. When he cuts in from the left and he can curve that ball into the goal, I think he's one of the only Millwall players that can actually curve a ball. So he's a lovely little player giving him the ball, but it's when he hasn't got the ball that he looks like he's a little bit slow and ponderous, and I think that's why they get on his back. But he should know more. He should have been instructed, because I think this is the second time you don't respond to the crowd, And obviously, once he did, as I say, down by me, they all went mad actually. And I don't think it's a very good state to be in for the young fella.
I remember when I was talking to him when we was at the sponsors, the thing, and he said to me, he said when I get the ball, he said I want the ball at my feet. That's what he said. And now, he knows how the game's played, but he said that.
He can't be bothered to run then, Stan, can he?
Eh?
Well, he can't be bothered to run for it then, can he?
No. That's not what he's saying. But no, he ain't saying that. What he's saying is, I'm not talking about running for the thing, but what I'm saying is we don't be standing here watching the ball sailing over in the air to him. He wants the ball at his feet so he can get hold of it and get going. Not spend about 30 seconds trying to get the ball under control. That's what he meant.
Yeah.
Do you guys? Can I just ask the question? Do you guys think that our fans get on Burey's back a little bit because he looks like he's not chasing back or doing his other part?
I unfortunately think, George, to answer that question in a more open way, it's not just Burey. Look at the abuse that Long's getting. I for two of those goals, You don't say anything. Look, let's just take it back to the Blackpool game when that geezer's hit a 25-yard worldie into the bottom corner. Everyone's blaming George Long for that. Sorry, the guy has hit a worldie. It's flown in the bottom left-hand corner. What a great strike. Sorry, did I not see Kevin De Bruyne do exactly the same last night? And not one person said the keeper should have got to it. Keeper should have got to it. No, because it's Kevin De Bruyne. But at the moment, like Burey, like a few other players, at Long, for example, they have got a chip on their shoulders about these guys, and no one can get past it. Look, I know we can do better in goal. We've always had really good goalkeepers, and I feel gutted for Bart because I've got a lot of respect for Bart, especially the way he's taken this season, and he's signed a new contract next season. I would love to see him back in the Millwall shirt, but I think people need to look past George Long.
I think Long will get better. Right, Long will get better. You know, all right, he's going to cock up. That's what happens with goalkeepers, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Brian King. You only read Brian. Everyone goes on about what a great goalkeeper Brian King was, and he was our best goalkeeper. And I don't disagree with that, right? But I remember when he first got into the Millwall team, he was getting grief, right, unfairly, and it wasn't. And the other thing was, it wasn't as bad then as it is today, right? But the point is that my problem with Long. It's not that. My problem with him is his distribution. I don't like the way, because he gets that ball and he just lumps it. And you know my view on all that, right? So if he wants to get me on side, I can live with the fact that he might cock up, but not, because that's what happens with goalkeepers, right? But it's his distribution that gets on my wick. That's where I'd be saying this has all got to change. Here's
the thing, though, George. Halfway through the season, we changed our goalkeeping coach.
Right, yeah.
And all of a sudden it came about distribution. Maybe that's what it all goes down to. Maybe I can't think of his name. He was the FA Cup goalkeeper, wasn't he?
Marshall, wasn't it? Marshall.
Yeah, Marshall's come in now and changed. I don't know. Maybe that's some changes. I don't know.
The one thing I would say there, Gal, is that you make the point that some of these shots have been outstanding. But the one thing that I've noticed with Long, and it's happened time and time again, that he's being beaten from about 30 yards out. Now, most defenders, and you learn this early on in football, don't you? You're going to make the guy shoot from a long way off. And, you are going to get beaten sometimes by marvellous goals, I'll give you that. But from 30 yards or whatever, you should be saving quite a few. And I think there are shots that have beaten Long, if I'm really honest with you, that, Bart would have got to, no problem.
Possibly. I'm not saying but we never know, will we?
The goal we conceded against Birmingham, we should have had that. That was down to him.
Yeah. I don't think...
Let's just also do another comparison. De Gea, West Ham, last week. Sorry, but that was unforgivable. Long has never done that. Let it go, literally trickle straight through his hands.
No.
Long has never done that.
And let's be fair to Long. He's also made some good saves. So let's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's look at both sides of that coin.
He'll get better. But But then you mentioned
he's 29.
Andy Marshall.
He's not going to get that much better, is he?
Well, I don't know, Pat. You never know. I mean, you mentioned Andy Marshall. Now I can remember when he came to Millwall, right? And he was he had old Willie Giroux in goal at the time. Who in all the time ever played for Millwall, never let us down. He kept old Denzel out. And
didn't he hold the record for about the most clean sheets in a row as well? About 6 or 7 games in a row, clean sheets, didn't he?
Who's that?
Willie Giroux. Didn't he have a good run of about 6 or 7?
But then he brings him up. Now, I reckon, I was never a great fan as Marshall was a goalkeeper. I have to say that. I reckon Willie Giroux got stitched up at Millwall, personally, my view. That's right. But we saw years ago now. But
anyway, we move on. We'll hear from because we've got a few more little things we want to discuss. Bethany Warren talking about the Millwall Community Trust.
The work of the Millwall Community Trust makes a big difference for people in Lewisham, Southwark and North Kent. Times are getting tougher, and to help them make a difference, you can help too by making a donation. Give a one-off donation or a monthly amount. Your support is crucial in raising vital funds for their work. Or by fundraising for them. If you are running, swimming, cycling, cooking, dancing, parachuting, or anything else, why not do it for the Millwall Community Trust? Interested? Then either email inquiries@millwallcommunity.org.uk or phone 0207 740 0503. I'll say that again. Email inquiries@millwallcommunity.org.uk or phone 0207 740 0503. Thanks if you can.
I'm your host, Gary Staff, and with me are the No One Likes Us Talking team of Patrica Maslin, George Lampey, and Stan Godwin. If you do any of the things that have been mentioned, it will go a long way to support the Millwall Community Trust in meeting the needs of the community. Our next question is players who are departing the club, and what players would you like to bring in for the start of the season? I'll start. The obvious one, yes, I would like another goalkeeper to work alongside Bart and George to put a bit more pressure on them. I do feel we probably need another left back because I think Malone maybe at his last season at the club, which is a shame because I do like him, saved a couple of on the line saves in the last couple of games. I think we might need a right back to push McNamara. And of course, obviously we need a new striker and maybe one or two wingers. That's where I think we lack. But if we can bring the likes of what was our player, isn't he? So like to Burke in again, because I think Burke likes it here. So if we can keep Burke, I'll be happy. But I do feel we really need 3 or 4 in those strengthening positions. Going out, unfortunately, I think Leonard will be going. I think Cresswell won't be signing, unfortunately. But I think we will sign Shackleton and Styles for that strength. Who else is going out on at the end of the season? Bennett, I think we'll move him on as well, unfortunately. But I think like Cooper Evans, I think he's already checked out, hasn't he? I think Dubai didn't go at Christmas. But when he's come on, he's done a reasonable job. He's been respectful for the club as well. He hasn't just come on and just stood there. He's worked hard when he's come on. So credit to him. But I think there will be a few with change to the old deadwood to maybe bring us some more. Will there be anyone coming in for big money for Fleming? I don't know, but I think we'd be stupid to take it at this stage because I think he probably needs another season with us to push himself on if he wants to go on to bigger things. But no, that's my thoughts. I'll go to you first, George.
Well, the one player I'm really going to disagree with here, and it might make me very unpopular with everybody, I just don't want to sign Burke. I just do not think he's a very good player, and I can't help this, and I don't want to know about the goal he scored the other day. I just do not think he contributes much down that right wing sort of thing, and I think we drastically need a left and a right-sided player that can go down the wings and beat people. I certainly think we need a forward to help Bradshaw out. I'm hoping that we may change our formation where we do play with 2 forwards, and this is where this new forward would come in because I think Bradshaw needs some help up there. Goalkeepers, I think we've got 2 good goalkeepers. Generally, I just think the team, Cresswell's the boy I'd love to get, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that. But there's a lot of people that need to go, I think, but I'm afraid Burke is not one that I want to keep. And I don't know if I'm going to.
If we don't, that the guy I mentioned earlier from St Johnstone, Alex Mitchell, he could. They might know that's why we probably brought in Cresswell last season and the other kid who went off to.
He might well be. I liked him when I saw him when he played even just a couple of little games, parts for us. I like the look of him. He's a big fella, isn't he? Yeah. So but I think the area we lack is down the wings on the left and the right. I don't think we've had a good left winger all season, and I don't think I'm not a big fan of Burke. So, that's where I think it's made life even harder for Bradshaw, to be honest.
Yeah. Stan, a couple of thoughts.
It's interesting. I mean, are you talking about an out-and-out winger, George, or are you?
Not particularly, because that's not the way that he plays. I mean, I know it has to be within our Gary Rowett's formation but I do think we don't have people that can go down the wing and do well with the ball and beat people and cross the ball. And I think that on both sides of the field, actually.
Well, I mean, I think that I mean, it's going to be interesting because clearly, I mean, the championship, well, not just the championship, although that's our division, but the days are long gone now where you could keep a team and keep it there and just bring in one or two and sort of get away with it. You have to, to maintain where you are, you have to constantly strengthen each season, right? Because that's the way it is. Because if you don't do that, you end up falling behind, right? I've got no problem with Burke. I mean, the last 2 or 3 games I've seen him play, I think he's been outstanding. But I always thought Burke was a good player anyway, so I've got no problem with him. Cooper, well, we'd be interested. I don't subscribe to this view that because supposedly Rangers are interested in him, he's going to go there because. What I mean, what's in him for Rangers? I mean, all right, he might get more money, but but in terms of his football ability, I would have thought he'd if anything, if he was going to leave us, he'd be probably better off going to a bigger championship club than us, than go to Rangers because the standard of football is simply not the same as ours and not as good as ours. So I don't get too excited about that. Mitchell, would be interesting to see what happens on his front. I mean, I've heard it suggested that we're going to go back for that bloke again who he was after in Hibs, which was he agreed to sign and then changed his mind. And then, funnily enough, the moment that then come out, that he changed his mind, what was being said by the normal sort of critics? The clubs, it's the money. We ain't offered him enough. Here goes somewhere else. The only 2 clubs that could have signed him in Scotland would have had to give him more money would have been Rangers and Celtic. They didn't go anywhere near him. And he didn't leave. He stayed where he was.
Did he do any more after he got injured that second game after coming back from us?
He did. Well, I know he played afterwards. I mean, I say I don't even know. I'd never heard of the guy, right? Up until we went to sign him, right? Didn't know anything about him, right? But what I'm saying is, presumably, he'd had the word old Rowett from what's his name, who was at St Johnstone at the time, Callum Davidson, I would imagine. But so I'm assuming we go back for him, but we do need strengthening. As I say, for me, if we have another goal kick, to me, it's all about the service to the forwards. I mean, George has got this thing about playing more than one man up front. I don't have an argument with that, right? You can play 3 up front, right? 4-3-3. I've got no problem with that. It's how you get the service to them. And if the service is just lumping it down the front all the time, well, you're going to lose out. You're going to lose out because nobody plays that way no more in the championship. And you just go behind and you get left behind. So it's all about, but no, I mean, to be fair, Rowett's, as Phil Coleman said at the beginning of this season, when them players were coming in, we now had a bench where people could look round and there was real quality on that bench. All right, we fell a little bit short. We had injuries, which was a problem. I think you say about Ryan Leonard going, I'm not so certain he will go. Not this season, right? I'm not saying he should.
You think we give him another one?
I'd be unhappy if he stayed.
No, neither would I.
But he has been injury prone. Bennett, well, I mean, he's a good player, but he's injury prone, isn't he? But then he's always been injury prone, right?
Yeah.
But no, but we will need to strengthen because if you don't strengthen these days, you fall behind.
Indeed.
Because everybody else in that division is going to strengthen. Because there's 4 teams in that. There's 4 teams in there now in the playoffs, and only one of them's going to go up. So the other 3, the 3 that don't go, whoever they are, they'll strengthen. So you've got to do that. We have to do that.
Agreed. Pat, what do you think?
I think most people have been mentioned. I'd probably get rid of Vogelsama. I don't think he's produced the goods. I agree with George. I wouldn't sign Burke either. And the one person you're all missing is Honeyman. probably one of Rowett's best buys.
Oh,
The
great.
guy was flying before he got injured.
Yeah.
I think he's
He did, yeah.
absolutely brilliant.
I think Rowett, has strengthened the team this season, hasn't he? I think, and they're not outstanding players, but people like Honeyman, he's always caused us problems when we played against him. So I was delighted, Pat. I think you're right when he joined us, and he was doing well.
And he was linking up with McNamara when Danny was playing well, and that was some of the best football I've seen this season. So I'd be weary about buying too many players, but we certainly need at least two decent forwards. Goalkeeper wise, you get rumours online, you get everything. And someone was saying that actually Bart had fallen out around Christmas time with Rowett, and that's why he got dropped. How true that is, that it could just be a load of crap. But it's strange that from that point we didn't hardly see him, did we? But then Bart's 37, two ageing keepers there. We've got to look to get someone younger.
Well, I think we have that Birmingham kid, actually, thinking between the lines. We bought that Birmingham kid. He's just signed another long-term contract as well.
Yeah, and it'd be nice. I mean, we've got a brilliant under-23 team. Oh, well, it's under-21 now, isn't it? Development time. I mean, let's get a few more of those on the bench next season.
Yeah.
We got plenty of talent of our own. Let's try and use it.
Yep, agreed. Right.
Just one thing I just said to what when Pat reminded me when she said Honeyman, right? He's a good player. He is a good player, right? And yet, when he you may not remember this, but I remember reading it. Right, we signed Honeyman, right, and if you remember, we played 5 at the back and 3 and whatever. But when we then moved from that to the 3 at the back and 4, was it 3-4-2-1? Honeyman, he couldn't play that system. So then, therefore, they had to get him to change his training and whatever. I mean, I found it strange when I read it, but they had to redo him to get him so he could fit the system. He'd never played that system before. And he couldn't. So he's had to. Yeah, I mean, see, that was an iron because people think, oh, what happens? You have a system, then you just change it and players just slot into it. No, that's not the case. Not the
Right.
case.
Indeed. Right, we'll take a break there and listen to Debbie Julians with Harvey Brown talking about the Lions Food Hub.
Let's hear from Harvey Brown.
Have you heard of the Lions Food Hub? That Millwall Lioness, Kelly Webster, is involved. Don't forget to help the Lions Food Hub if you can. Thank you.
As Harvey said, they need your support. If you can help, and you can make a one-off or a regular monetary donation at Banquet, that is BANKUET. You will find them online. Insert www.banquet.co.uk/Lions Food Hub into your browser. I'll say that again. www.banquet.co.uk/Lions Food Hub. And the Lions Food Hub is all one word. On match days, you can make food and toiletry donations at the Lions Food Hub, which is opposite the 1885 bar at the Cold Blow Lane end of the ground. Alternatively, you can also contact the team via the Lions Food Hub Twitter or Facebook sites.
I'm your host, Gary Staff, and with me are the No One Likes a Talking team of Stan Godwin, Patricia Maslin and George Lampey. Right, last question of the night. I want one answer to this before we all say good night. What was your overall thoughts of the season and standout moment? I'm going to say my standout moments were Sheffield United and Burnley games. The Sheffield United game I watched 3 or 4 times after, and I don't think my heart still stopped racing after that game. That was my highlight and proved how well we can play under Gary Rowett. And then the Burnley game, completely different game, showed our resilience and fight as a team to win, to get a point against the best team, and they were the best team on that night against a team like that. So they were my two moments, thoughts, and remainders of the season. As an overall comment, look, we're still in the Championship. We're a good, solid Championship side. Yes, I'm absolutely gutted we didn't make the playoffs, but we live to fight another day, and we're not Wigan, we're not Reading, and we're not. Who else went down? Wigan, Reading, and who else went down? I can't remember. Blackpool.
Blackpool.
We got them in.
We sent them down.
George, you're ready in there, mate. Anyway, right, but they're my thoughts. Look, we're not one of those teams. We're not Huddersfield, who were in the playoffs last year. We're still fighting for another day. So, look, onwards and upwards. And as Pat says, let's take 2 months off, reload, and start again. Right, Pat, I'm going to go to you first on this one. What was your one thought from the season?
My one thought, the highlight wasn't actually football. It was Zhang swearing on Sky Sports. I fell off the sofa. Absolutely brilliant. I've watched it at least 50 times.
Superb.
Overall thought, well, I heard someone say that Millwall had been Rowetted, and I understand what they meant, and a non-Millwall fan wouldn't. And the best word I can put to that is bland. And that is my initial thought for the season.
Okay.
Well, best moments. And I think we've had some very good games, actually. And you talk about Fleming. I think the boy has been sensational. And I understand why he's player of the season, despite what I've said who I might like. I think he's got a marvellous touch, and I've just enjoyed watching him, for a boy to come in for his first season in the Championship, which isn't easy. The Championship's very good. So my joy has been watching that boy develop. And also, I'd say it's our players that I've enjoyed more. I think McNamara, has had a great season. I've enjoyed it. He's gone off a little bit lately, but he's entitled to. But just some of our players have really played well, Billy, when I know he got injured for a little while. But the one thing that I've been impressed with this season is that we have actually turned into what I would call a Championship team. So I think Rowett bringing, like Pat said early on, people like Honeyman to this club, I just think it's made us even stronger as a Championship club. And I think we are now an established Championship team, which I think, we weren't a season or two before. We were sort of not doing that well in the great scheme of things. We were always looking a bit dodgy. So I think this season has been great. We go to the last match of the season. We're in with a chance of, getting in the playoffs. We were in the same position last season when we went to Bournemouth. And we were all talking about it the other day. It was a year ago, wasn't it? Nearly exactly.
Yep.
And we were still in with a chance when we all went to Bournemouth. So I think for us as a football club, I know we haven't got over the line and that makes us all disappointed, but I think we've really sort of stepped up this last little while, these last couple of seasons under this fella. And I think it's been a really good season. I look back on it. Bland, as Pat said, well, I'll give her some of that because I do think Rowett's football isn't the most exciting in the world, but I can't argue with the fella. I think his results speak for themselves.
And Stan.
Well, George makes the point, doesn't he? That his view is that we're an established Championship club, right? I don't argue with that. And therefore, if, the people say, well, we want Rowett out and all the rest of it, right? Then the manager, we've got a manager that's going to come in and he's going to be able to handle a established Premiership club. That's the sort of quality bloke you're looking for, Not anyone will do. Not anyone will do, but you're going to need that, right? But as I say, I don't see. I mean, in the end, as I said before, even if we'd have won that game and we were going into the playoffs, and sure as night follows day, at some point somebody would have put on the social media, well, how long's Rowett going to last now? And there are people, I have to say, that are never going to be satisfied until Rowett has gone. They will never be satisfied, right? That's their sole aim in life. But anyway, that's that. But no, we've had a decent season. We've had our heartbreaks. I watched the Sheffield United game when we beat them. I mean, I didn't think we would do at the time when they come back. But there's been other games where I've been disappointed in because you know what my views are about the way we play football, and that's it. So no, but it's not, but that's behind us now. We've got to get on with it. We don't want to keep living in. The only thing that's sort of got on my wick in the last week, right, is we had all these players, and all I kept hearing about, right, is, well, I see it in a thing about, with Jimmy Carter there and Teddy Sheringham, and that's 35 years ago. We still bang on about it for an event that took place 35 years ago. We got to let it go. It's gone, finished, and done with, right? We got to start living for today, and stop living in the past. And but no, I think that's what we got to do, and I think we got to make proper signings, and we get in the players, and let's just see how we go. But we got to be a bit careful. We got to control ourselves a bit better, in my view. The way we carry on at times, it becomes ridiculous, And but no, so we'll have to see how it all goes, won't it?
Right. Just before we say goodbye, Paul Loading has sent us a report about the Romans and Pride.
Hi all, it's Paul Loading over at the Millwall Romans. Just with a quick update from our side. Firstly, obviously, very, very disappointed with what happened on Monday. We really thought they'd won the game from the first half, but it just didn't seem to happen in the second half. Really upsetting and frustrating. I say we're getting in the frame of mind of being a fully authentic Millwall fans and just getting this awe of disappointment from Monday. But all credit to the guys; they've had a good season and a good campaign. Not much report from us from playing at the weekend. We didn't have a game due to the bank holiday. We are back in action this weekend. Romans are playing on Sunday at home, 1:30 kickoff at St Paul's against Phoenix, East End Phoenix, based in the East End of London, rivals of ours. Should be a good game down there at 1:30. And Pride have been invited to play at the Den on Monday evening against Stonewall Thirds. They're kicking off around about 6:30. So we're really privileged to play there at the Den. So I'll be down there watching them and cheering the guys on. If anyone else fancies it, come along.
Thanks, Paul. If you can get down there, all well and good. Actually, I was just wondering, does anyone know if the under-21 games will be shown anywhere? Will that be on iFollow or anything like that?
Sometimes it's on YouTube, isn't it?
Yeah, be worth looking out for because we've got a decent chance of winning that this year, I think. Anyway, just a quick comment to say, Eamon, it's good to hear you're back on your feet, currently enjoying a holiday summer in the world, and look forward to getting you back on the show next season. And you've been really missed, and I'm sure all the panel concur with that.
Do indeed, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's it from me and the rest of the No One Likes Us talking team. It's been an absolute pleasure to do this show last couple of weeks and the last couple of months, and what a season it has been. It's been an eventful season. Look, we've aired it the season, but I think the underlying thing that's come out of this is we are now a fully established championship side, and we move on to next season where we hopefully win, strengthen and push on, and hopefully make it into the playoffs or maybe even the top two. You never know. We'll be back in a couple of weeks when it all starts again, and we'll see you in a couple of months. So thanks and good night, Pat.
Good night. Nice show.
Thank you. Thanks and good night, George.
Good night, Gal. Good night, Ron.
Thanks and good night, Stan.
Yeah, good night, Gal. Good night, everyone.
Let's not forget to keep it safe on the streets out there. Good night and many thanks for listening to the No One Likes Us Talking team this season.